Good evening from London. Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Today, Harry and Meghan torched what little was left of their relationship with the royal family and what little was left, frankly, of their own reputations.
This latest
Last week was most downright seditious.
But I
Harry and Meghan's
knew that I had to do everything I could to protect my family.
Hey, Grandma.
Nothing says protecting your family like putting your kids in a reality TV
As it turns
series,
out,
we've apparently been wrong all along. Britain is a nasty, racist hellhole where only magnificent Meghan stood up to all this. And the world's biggest victims are not the people of Ukraine or the people battling COVID or people struggling in a devastating cost of living crisis. No, the world's biggest victims right now are the Duke and Duchess of Netflix.
I couldn't think of
Don't
two
take
women
my
more
word
different.
for it. When it comes to compassion and empathy, where's Meghan's been for her own father? She completely disowned him, as she did all her wedding, actually, before the wedding. Netflix. And don't take my word for it. Yeah, nobody set out to destroy you. You destroyed yourselves in this country with your ludicrous, hypocritical behaviour. The truth be told, what she just said is complete and utter garbage. Harry and Meghan's romance, engagement and marriage were all greeted with ecstatic joy by the British media, the public and the royal family that they've all now abandoned. That's the truth. Not Harry and Meghan's truth, but the actual truth.
Few media figures have built as public a rivalry with two members of the royal family as Piers Morgan has with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. It spanned a live on-air walkout, a Netflix documentary war, a best-selling memoir torn apart on live.
I'm sorry, I don't believe a word she says, Meghan Markle.
Well, that's a
The rivalry didn't start with a single explosive moment. It built for over a year. In January 2020, Harry and Meghan announced they were stepping back as senior royals, a decision the British press nicknamed Megxit. Piers Morgan, then still hosting Good Morning Britain, became one of the loudest media voices criticising the move, framing it repeatedly as a rejection of duty and family.
Professional victim. I've spent more time in Sussex than Meghan and Harry have in the last 2 weeks. Right? So, actually, a month. But they're never there, but they've got these titles which are given to them. That's what I mean about they trade off Duke and Duchess of Sussex, the royals, to make themselves incredibly rich. And I do wonder if there's a point where Charles goes, actually, you can't do that anymore. It'd be unprecedented.
Through 2020, on nearly every episode touching the royals, Morgan hammered the same point, that Harry and Meghan wanted the privileges of royal life without the responsibilities. It set the tone for everything that followed.
Oprah.
Sorry.
So, do you know what? That's pathetic.
You can track him, maybe not my
No.
See you later.
I'm being...
Sorry, can't do
This is
this.
absolutely diabolical.
Piers, who has made it known that he isn't the biggest fan of the Duchess, took to Twitter after her interview with Oprah to say that her accusations were, quote, just another reminder that anyone who criticizes Meghan Markle is deemed a racist bully. But the controversial TV personality's criticism of Meghan has continued on the morning show and was called out by his co-host on Tuesday's episode of Good Morning Britain.
And I understand that you don't like Meghan Markle. You've made it so clear a number of times on this programme. A number of times. And I understand that you've got a personal relationship with Meghan Markle, or had one, and she cut you off. She's entitled to cut you off if she wants to. Has she said anything about you since she cut you off? I don't think she has, but yet you continue to trash her.
OK, I'm done with this.
No.
Sorry, no. Sorry.
So, do you know what? That's pathetic.
You can track him, maybe not my
No.
See you later.
At that point,
March
Piers got up.
2021. Harry and Meghan sit down with Oprah Winfrey for a 2-hour interview that becomes one of the most watched royal moments in a generation, including Meghan's revelation that she experienced suicidal thoughts while a working royal. The next morning on Good Morning Britain, Morgan tells viewers he doesn't believe her account. The mental health charity Mind publicly criticises the comment. Complaints to media regulator Ofcom eventually pass 50,000, making it the most complained about broadcast moment in the regulator's history. The next day, co-host Alex Beresford confronts Morgan live on air, accusing him of carrying a personal grudge after Meghan ended their friendship years earlier.
And I understand that you don't like Meghan Markle. You've made it so clear a number of times on this programme. A number of times. And I understand that you've got a personal relationship with Meghan Markle, or had one, and she cut you off. She's entitled to cut you off if she wants to. Has she said anything about you since she cut you off? I don't think she has, but yet you continue to trash her.
OK, I'm done with this.
No.
Sorry, no. Sorry.
So, do you know what? That's pathetic.
You can trash me, maybe not my
No.
See you later.
At that point,
Morgan
Piers
gets
got
up
up.
mid-segment and walks off the set. He never returns to host the show. The next day, he addresses it publicly, standing by every word, calling freedom of speech a hill he was happy to die on.
I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in the right to be allowed to have an opinion. If people want to believe Meghan Markle, that's entirely their right. I don't believe almost anything that comes out of her mouth.
Piers Morgan is speaking out after abruptly quitting Good Morning Britain.
I think the damage she's done to the British monarchy and to the Queen at a time when Prince Philip is lying in hospital is enormous and frankly contemptible. So if I have to fall on my
Turning
sword...
the walkout didn't end the story, it created a second one. In the US, Sharon Osbourne publicly defended Morgan's comments on the daytime show The Talk, which triggered its own on-air controversy and weeks later, her exit from the show. Back in the UK, Ofcom opened a formal investigation into the broadcast months later. Ofcom ultimately ruled that while the comments were potentially harmful, the broadcast overall provided sufficient context and fell within freedom of expression protections. Morgan called it a resounding victory.
Nickel. Katie, thanks for joining me. I've got to say, the nearer we get to this global event, as Netflix call it, which is going to be unleashed on Thursday morning at 8 a.m. with the first 3 episodes, the more angry I'm becoming about what this is going to do.
By late 2022, Harry and Meghan have their own Netflix docuseries, simply titled Harry and Meghan. Now hosting his own show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, Morgan spends the premiere week going through it, point by point, disputing their account of being denied guidance on royal protocol, challenging their story about a niece being uninvited from the wedding, and criticising the couple for repeatedly invoking Princess Diana's memory.
Nickel.
Katie,
thanks for joining me. I've got to say, the nearer we get to this global event, as Netflix call it, which is going to be unleashed on Thursday morning at 8 a.m. with the first 3 episodes, the more angry I'm becoming about what this is going to do to a grieving monarch who's not even been coronated yet to replace his mother, to the new Prince of Wales trying to build that position now for himself and his wife and his children. All of it makes me puke that these two, once again, are going to be raining muck all over their families, not just for the global titillation, but for hard dollars, $80 million, which is why they're doing it.
Absolutely, and I can only imagine for the King, for the Prince of Wales, I mean, they must just have their heads in their hands, exasperated, frustrated, hurt, betrayed, angry, all words that I've been told are the feelings behind closed doors at the palace. Who knows whether they're going to be tuning in when the first 3 episodes of this docuseries drop on Thursday. I suspect the royal lawyers will be watching very closely. I'm sure the courtiers will be watching closely, particularly those who claim they were bullied by Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. And I think the problem with all of this is so clearly highlighted in those very controversial trailers is it is so partisan, it is so one-sided, and I suspect we'll come away saying exactly what we said after the Oprah interview. Well, where were the counter questions? Where are the tabloid editors who can put another side of the argument across? They say they want to put across their truth, but is it the truth?
Well, we know after Oprah it's nowhere near the truth. At Middleton, you've always been very supportive of Harry. I think the military connection, obviously, and there's no doubt, this guy served his country with honour in war zones, and he deserves great credit for that. My brother-in-law taught him at Sandhurst Military Academy, said he was a fine young soldier. Nothing can take that away from him. But what I detect from people I know in the military is an unbelievable disappointment in what he's now becoming. And the fact that, of course, when you serve the military, you serve an oath to serve your country and your monarch.
Yes,
and here he is just now constantly attacking his father, who's the new king, and the monarchy, the institution.
I think when people are fed up with being suffocated by wokeness and by a an attention-seeking manner like they have been, you can't defend them anymore. You know, Harry, I defended him all along, said, look, he's protected his country, served his country, he should go off like they wanted to, go off and live their life outside of the media, outside of the limelight.
With privacy, away from the media.
And I completely respected that. I thought to myself, do you know what? The man served his country, let him get away if that's
But they
what he
didn't
wants
mean
to
it.
do. But to then do the complete opposite, not the complete opposite discreetly, the complete opposite in our faces, not only the people of his country, which we did look at him as our prince, but also the monarchy. You know, I served the monarchy. I swore allegiance to the monarchy. I fought for Harry, for William, for the Queen, for the King. I fought for those people during a couple of decades. So when I see now that I've not only defended him, but he's come out, and the wokeness behind it, the virtual signalling behind this is sickening. And I think people have got to the point where they're fed up with hearing the same old jargon and then making money out of it.
Well, it's also hypocrisy and lies, right? In the two trailers, which last no more than 2.5 minutes between them, already 6 of the images that they have used in the trailers to illustrate the intrusion into their lives have been proven to be the complete opposite. Either they weren't at the events which are being depicted, like one's a Harry Potter premiere 5 years before they met, or their official photo calls where the pictures they've used were actually from people who'd been officially approved to stand there and take those pictures of the royals to promote them.
What's very obvious in here, Piers, what's very obvious here is
he doesn't hold back on the format either, calling the series predictable and overly sympathetic to its own subjects, and using the coverage to renew his call for the couple to be stripped of their royal titles.
Why wouldn't he?
Yeah, but I think it's kind of irrelevant. I mean, no one really cares about the titles. If you strip them of the titles, they're still Harry and Meghan, they'd still be equally famous. And but
they wouldn't be acting as members of the royal family.
I don't think they go around acting as members of the royal family.
Oh, they do. All the paperwork, all the letterheadings, it's all from the office of the Duchess of Sussex. Almost nonsense. She calls herself a princess on her podcast. Little girls have got to make a real princess. You're not a princess. She's not a princess anyway. But they do it quite deliberately to fuel the interest from commercial entities. And really, the interest is based on them trashing their family. I mean, without that, I'm not sure what we're interested in. We don't want to hear their woke homilies about life, do we? So I'm not sure how this all plays out, but it's a mess. And Charles may have to deal with it, I think. Well, good evening from London. Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Today, Harry and Meghan torch what little was left of their relationship with the royal family and what little was left, frankly,
when Volume 2 drops a week later, the documentary goes further into claims about royal family tension and alleged press leaks. Morgan's response escalates with it. This is the point where his language shifts from dishonest and hypocritical to explicitly calling Harry a traitor to his country. It's also one of his most heated panel debates on the subject, with guests pushing back on him directly on air.
British media, the public and the royal family that they've all now abandoned. That's the truth. Not Harry and Meghan's truth, but the actual truth. The first 3 hours of this Netflix series paint a very different, far uglier picture of this country and our royal family.
8 days after the relationship became public, I put out a statement calling out the racist undertones of articles and headlines that were written by the British press.
I wasn't thinking about how race played a part in any of this. I genuinely didn't.
Is the race element.
I sometimes call the Commonwealth Empire 2.0 because that is what it is.
There is a huge level of unconscious bias. The thing with unconscious bias is it's actually no one's fault. But once it's been pointed out or identified within yourself, you then need to make it right.
Yep, we're all racists, apparently. It sounds like a different country, but let's be clear, Britain's one of the most tolerant and multicultural nations in the world. We celebrated the glamorous modern flair of the new young royals. We eulogised the newly biracial monarchy as the fresh face of 21st century Britain. I wrote newspaper columns about it myself, including on the day of the wedding. The press and public only turned on Harry and Meghan when their behaviour became obnoxious, self-serving and rankly hypocritical. Sadly, millions of people around the world will watch this series and they'll believe it. They'll believe the smears about Britain and our monarchy, that we're a bunch of bigoted and hateful people. They even blamed Brexit for the racism which apparently was aimed at Meghan Markle, which is just completely absurd. But by far the most sickening part of this show for me was the constant use of Harry's late mother, Princess Diana, to stoke sympathy for Meghan.
So much of what Meghan is and how she is so similar to my mum. She has the same compassion, she has the same empathy, she has the same confidence. She has this warmth about her.
Who's that?
I accept that there will be people around the world who fundamentally disagree with what I've done and how I've done it. But I knew that I had to do everything I could to protect my family.
Hey, Grandma.
Nothing says protecting a family like putting your kids in a reality TV series, does it? Having known both women, Princess Diana and Meghan Markle, I can say with absolute certainty they had nothing in common whatsoever. I couldn't think of two women more different. When it comes to compassion and empathy, where's Meghan's been for her own father? She completely disowned him, as she did all her wedding, actually, before the wedding. As this series makes clear, he just suffered a stroke a few months ago. Miss Compassion hasn't even bothered to call her father to ask how he is, and the answer, as we'll find out tonight from his son Thomas, is he's not well at all. Harry's never even met the man whose daughter he married. Doesn't care. Mr. Empathy, Mr. Compassion. Yet this man, Thomas Markle, raised Meghan on his own for many years. That wasn't in the documentary. That was glossed over. That was ignored. Just like he is now.
During the same week, Morgan brings Meghan's half-brother, Thomas Markle Jr., onto the show to react to the documentary's first episodes. It's a notable moment, using a family member's on-air reaction to challenge the narrative Harry and Meghan present about their relationship with Meghan's side of the family.
Well, in a moment, I'll speak to Meghan's half-brother, Thomas Jr., exclusively. Here's a short reminder of what Meghan and Harry said about her father in the show, including a series of supposedly private messages she sent to him when it emerged he was too ill to attend their wedding.
Paps and journalists and media were following him all day, every day. The unraveling happened that week when he wouldn't pick up my call. And instead, you're talking to TMZ.
He had a heart attack 6 days ago, which is crazy.
Calling.
This is not him saying, oh, I don't want to be there.
No, I get it.
And the world is watching this drama play out.
Of course, it's incredibly sad what happened. She had a father before this, and now she doesn't have a father.
Well, joining me now is Meghan's half-brother, Thomas Markle. Thomas, thank you for joining me. First of all, how is your father, Thomas Sr.?
Oh, hey guys, it's good to be here. Dad is doing very well, making a lot of progress. He's in good spirits. Sometimes he doesn't feel that comfortable to actually make a live appearance, but he's doing very well.
You're there caring for him. He had a massive stroke, and I think at one stage for quite a while he lost the power of his speech. Has that returned now? Is he able to communicate with you?
Yeah, his speech is definitely coming back. We're making a lot of progress with the speech therapy, and you know, for the most part, it's pretty normal. It goes off. I think it's horrible. The documentary is so far off on so many different levels. It's really a little bit disturbing. Saying that, you know, she doesn't have a family and she doesn't have a father, and then Harry saying that, you know, she has no father now. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly hurtful. I also have always had sympathy with your father because I felt that he was thrown to the wolves with no experience of dealing with this kind of intensive media attention. He tried to do the right thing. He came unstuck, and they just disowned him. Has she made any attempt to contact your father since he had his stroke?
None whatsoever. And, you know, I totally agree with you on the fact that none of us were ever coached or given any help with the paparazzi or press since the very beginning, which has caused a lot of problems. Nobody reached out. I actually reached out, and all I got back was distant family, and she doesn't know us, which is just, you know, it's just very bizarre how she just basically brushed the entire family under the carpet like we don't exist, and then lied about not having a family, and lied about, you know, she doesn't have a family that she's always wanted. You know, we've always been here. Documentary's way off. I mean, that's what's actually prompted me to work with my own production team. And coming out in like 2023, we're going to have, you know, our side of a documentary that's going to shed a lot of light.
Well, I don't blame you. I mean, if this was one of my family doing this to my family, I want to do the same thing and set the record straight. It
Yes.
just seems to me that she's decided you're all too big a problem. Therefore, you have to be cut loose. And I got to be honest, I knew Meghan for a bit before she met Harry. Did exactly the same to me. Bang, done. She did that to many people that she knew, that she'd either worked with or was friends with or whatever. It just seems to me she's what I would call a ruthless social climber, who just when people are no longer, no longer
And
appropriate
documentation
parts
that we're going to be including in our documentary, it's going to tell a whole different story. And I think the general public and the UK and America knows that now the Markles aren't bad people. We're just like a normal family like everybody else. We do exist. And when one person tells lies and then tells 10 other lies to cover the one lie and it keeps on going, this is what happens. You end up looking ridiculous.
There's a staggering moment, Thomas, where Ashley, who is, I think, your niece, who's Samantha's daughter, befriended Meghan and was going to go to the wedding. And then Meghan is apparently advised by some flunky at the palace that wouldn't be a good idea because Samantha's not invited. So this happens.
How do we explain that this half-sister isn't invited to the wedding, but that the half-sister's daughter is? And so, with Ashley, the guidance at the time was to not have her come to our wedding.
I think I said I was hurt on some level, but I understood where it was coming from. To know that it was because of my biological mother that this relationship that's so important to me was impacted in that way. To feel like because of her it was taken away has been hard.
Yeah, actually, it was because of Meghan that it was taken away. Meghan could have had her there if she wanted to have her there. Instead, she wanted to have a bunch of celebrities she barely knew, from the Clooneys to the Beckhams to Elton John to James Gordon to Timbuktu. I mean, it looked like anyone she'd met on the party circuit in the previous 2 years got the invite, but a lot of Harry's friends weren't there, and nor was this niece who she makes a big thing in the documentary of saying we were so close.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there you have it. One lie turns into 20 other lies. She didn't have a family, so therefore nobody was invited. I mean, who doesn't invite their family to a wedding, right? Especially a royal wedding? And it's not like anybody in my family asked her for one nickel or anything of her. We were all actually happy for her when all this happened. But the slow turn of events showed the true colors of this woman.
When you finished watching today these first 3 episodes, what was your kind of overview about what's happened to Meghan, and indeed what you think of Harry?
Well, my general overview is I can't believe that she was able to be in this position, all by my father's doing, by the way, to be in that position and to know what you're getting yourself into, and then go in there and try and change a 1,000-year-old tradition and monarchy to your own liking. Who does that? It's still a big question. I mean, my father and we talk about it quite a bit. It's like, I mean, how could you even consider doing that? You were everything every woman in their life could ever dream of. You had, and you had to go and make waves and accusations and be difficult, and overall, taking Harry away from his family.
Right. Yeah, I'm afraid I think it's completely disgraceful.
Like I said,
Thomas, I've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Please send your father my best, won't you? Because I've been concerned about him. I'm glad to hear he's on the mend.
Absolutely.
Obviously been a scary time for you and the family. Please send him my very best.
Absolutely, will do. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, good to talk to you.
January 2023. Harry's memoir, Spare, leaks early in Spain before its official release, revealing details about drug use, a physical altercation with Prince William, and disputed claims about his military service. Morgan tears into it live on air, describing it as an intensely personal betrayal of the family and telling his audience the book belonged in the bin. He also zeroes in on what he calls a contradiction, Harry had, in one interview, walked back earlier claims of racism against the royal family while defending other disputed details from the book elsewhere. Morgan doesn't let it go, and during the week-long media tour that follows Spare's release, he keeps returning to it night after night.
Well, joining us are the royal correspondent for Vanity Fair, Katie Nicholl, and the Sun's royal editor, Matt Wilkinson, who I think has been whizzing through an entire copy of the book. Is that right, Matt? This is a Spanish version,
yeah,
as I understand it.
I've had the enormous pleasure of reading the book.
Exactly. Well, you don't sound as if it was a pleasure. Tell us what you found.
No, it was. It's an incredible book, and I think you've gone through some of the main headlines here today. But I don't think I've ever read a royal book of so many revelations, and the most important thing here is there's so many revelations from a member of the royal family, and I think that's what the issue is here. There are, as Katie will tell you, there are many, many royal books. She's written some herself, but there are many, many royal books. But the problem here is that a beloved member of the family, like a treasured brother of William, a son of Charles, he's the one that is actually airing all this dirty linen. This is the problem that the royal family are facing, because there's all sorts of stories, all sorts of revelations that come out about the royal family. The problem is that a senior member of the royal family is actually making these accusations, but also revealing the private lives, the private conversations, situations with Kate and William that would normally be behind closed doors, or normally that journalists would not be allowed to report on, or if we tried to report on them, we were told it was too private. But as I say, we have a brother of William and a son of Charles that is actually making these things public, and I think that's the most aggravating element of this.
I mean, there is so much to say. We've already learnt so many extraordinary things from this book. What is a single story, if you like, that jumps out at you the most, that left you with a jaw dropping? I can certainly tell you what my take on it is, but I'd love to hear from you.
Well, the ones I think it's about Harry's life. It's about his drug taking and losing his virginity. I mean, these are things that members of the royal family don't normally talk about. You know, he's talking about his time in the army in Afghanistan, where he was saying that he killed 25 people of the Taliban. But it's this opening up of his personal life, about the sort of tale about him losing his virginity behind a pub, and about his cocaine taking, and he's opening up elements about where he was hallucinating and talking to a bin. I mean, these are really deeply personal stories from Prince Harry.
Just unbelievable, Matt. I mean, Katie, where do we begin? How shocked are you by these revelations? I think after the sort of the Netflix documentary, you sort of thought, what else is to come out?
I think I said that, didn't I? Now I'm feeling really silly, because I didn't think that he was going to go anywhere near where he's gone. I mean, I completely agree with what Matt's just said. I mean, I've done this job now for nearly 17 years. You know, he's not the first member of the royal family to write a book, but he is certainly the only member of the royal family to have written a book this explosive. I mean, those bombshells just come thick and fast. And I think we've almost become oversaturated by Harry and Meghan and this narrative. There's just so much of it. But actually, if you try and just forget the docuseries, and if you try and put that Oprah interview to a side and you just come into this book, the idea that a senior member of the royal family would write a book like this, I mean, I would say is unthinkable. You really
As King Charles's coronation approaches in the spring of 2023, Harry and Meghan's hesitation over attending becomes its own controversy. On Fox and Friends, Morgan argues the couple only cares about the invitation as future material for another book or documentary, calling their public indecision absolutely revolting. Harry ultimately attends the coronation alone. Meghan stays in California. Morgan uses the split decision as further evidence, in his framing, that the couple is more interested in managing their public image than repairing the relationship with the family.
And all of these typical circumstances would be perfectly okay, but for some reason it's not with this.
But we don't disagree with that. We don't disagree with that.
In any normal circumstances, this would be okay. But hold on a second. It's not for this particular couple. Now,
in January 2024, new reporting resurfaces claims that the late Queen Elizabeth was privately unhappy about Harry and Meghan naming their daughter Lilibet, the Queen's own childhood nickname, after suggesting they had her blessing. Morgan responds on social media, accusing the couple of lying about having her support and calling it disgusting behaviour toward an elderly relative. Harry and Meghan's team pushes back, denying the claim. but it becomes one more flashpoint in a relationship that, 3 years after the Oprah interview, still hasn't cooled down.
You're not understanding.
You're not understanding.
No, Piers, you're not understanding. Because the reality is, I can give you an example, because clearly you're not getting it. So, someone can come along and say, oh, I don't like Meghan because she's this, she's that, she's a liar, she's this, she's that. When the reality is, secretly, it's actually due to the fact... Hold on a second, let me finish, please, Ant. Yeah. It's actually due to the fact that Harry, who is a royal, ended up marrying a woman from the black community. But you cannot say that out loud, because that is overtly racist.
It's got nothing to do with...
It is overtly racist and that is against the law.
February 2024, King Charles is diagnosed with cancer, and Harry publicly signals he wants to reconcile and support his father. In a 9-minute monologue on his show, Morgan calls the gesture an insult, arguing Harry and Meghan can't be, in his words, half in and half out of the royal family after voluntarily leaving in 2020. He connects it to reports that Netflix was reconsidering its deal with the couple and that Spotify had already ended its Parcast partnership with Meghan, arguing that without the royal connection, in his view, the couple's public relevance was fading fast. He also draws a contrast with Prince William, arguing only one brother could still be taken seriously as a future statesman representing Britain.
This is Meghan Markle.
Now make yourself cry. Oh, I can do that so well. Oh my God, it's crazy. You're like, Meghan, 1 tear, left eye, go. Give me 3 seconds.
3 seconds is all it takes for her to cry.
And just a quick one on that, Piers.
She's an actress.
And I get your point.
She's scamming everybody.
A live walkout, a regulatory investigation, a multi-week Netflix takedown, a memoir torn apart on air night after night, a coronation snub, a naming controversy, and a monologue telling Harry flatly that nobody wants him back. 4 years on from that Oprah interview, Piers Morgan has built one of the longest-running public feuds in modern royal media, and based on the pattern so far, it's unlikely to be the last chapter. If you want the full timeline as it keeps unfolding, subscribe and let me know in the comments which chapter you think hit the hardest.
Having known both women, Princess Diana and Meghan Markle, I can say with absolute certainty they had nothing in common whatsoever. I couldn't think of two women more different. When it comes to compassion and empathy, small little detail, but rather like their claim, or Meghan's claim, that they'd been secretly married by the Archbishop of Canterbury in their garden before, 3 days before, the big televised wedding, which also turned out not just to be untrue, but had it been true, would have led to the Archbishop of Canterbury being incarcerated in prison. As with all things Meghan and Harry, it would seem, the truth just doesn't really exist in their world. It's their truth, their version of it. We'll go each other. Iman,
yeah.
Look at the front pages there, which is when their engagement was announced.
Yeah.
Where's the racism?
Do you remember that was before she actually said that the institution was racist? And that's my point. How institutionalised racism works is the minute you dare say that the institution is racist, everyone piles on.
Shouting.
That's what happens.
But you accept there's no racism in those media pages?
Because that was before she said that the institution was racist.
Actually,
after that moment, that's when everyone decided to pile on.
Actually, what happened
is
a woman, people began to pile on when she started having $500,000 baby showers in New York and flying back on the Clooney private plane. They started having a pile-on. When they used Elton John's private plane like a taxi rank whilst preaching about carbon footprint. They had another pile-on when they had other huge extravagant events they went to, and then when they're preaching about poverty on their Twitter account. Time and again, they were caught being rankly hypocritical. That was why the media coverage began to turn. Then there was all the stuff with her father. Many people felt that she was unnecessarily cruel to her father. People have since criticised his own behaviour. I accept that. But certainly to start with, they ditched him. They dropped him. Harry's never met his father-in-law in his life. You know, he proposed marriage to this girl knowing what's going to happen and then doesn't do anything to protect the father at all. And so now she's disowned him. What kind of people put compassion on their website, as they do, as being at the centre of their core being, when they live 70 miles away from this guy who has not got long for this world, he's in poor health, all he wants to do is meet his grandchildren, and she won't have anything to do with it? That's not compassionate. And also the hypocrisy and the lies are not what I think are decent values in people. And I think Meghan Markle branding us a racist country and attacking the institution of the monarchy as racist.
It's unfair.
I think
it's
actually,
unfair.
I think she
totally unfair.
She is what I would call a race baiter. If she doesn't produce hard evidence to support these incendiary claims, she becomes a race baiter, exploiting racism and the issue of racism to act as a kind of protective shield around her and to make herself extremely rich and famous as a professional victim.